Hello everyone. So my new trimmer has arrived and I wanted to do a video on it to show you what it's like, and I'm going to compare it to the one that retired earlier in the year. Both look very similar. The first thing I noticed was the weight of the new one. It's quite a bit lighter than the retired one. The new one is very slightly narrower with straight sides instead of the curves of the retired one. The grid is more rectangular on the new one versus the squares of the retired one. The white measuring area extends right to the edges and there are no wasted areas. Both have a ruler, top and bottom, which have metric and imperial measurements, centimetres and inches. The new one, however, has measurements through the middle, which will be very useful when cutting shorter pieces. The measurements to the right side of the cutting track is wider and goes just past 3.5 centimetres versus 3.2 or 1.25 inches. One thing I have noticed, and I nearly cut my cardstock incorrectly the first time I used the new trimmer, is that the numbers are now on the right side of the line, whereas on the old trimmer the numbers were on the left side of the line. This is going to be something for me to get used to, and you might find the same thing. The vertical ruler only has imperial measurements, which I'm very disappointed by. I do use my vertical ruler when I want to cut or score down to a specific measurement. I work in centimetres mostly. Rarely do I work in inches unless I'm casing a project and it's not appropriate to convert it first. I'm really hoping that Stampin Up will bring out a sticker or something that can go down, maybe down this left side somewhere of the ruler to correct that, as I believe it's a significant thing that they've missed. I've let them know my thoughts on this through the appropriate demonstrator channels. Still, with the vertical ruler, it no longer has a locking clip at the top. This one has this clip that slides over. Mine doesn't work any longer, so I don't use it anyway, but the new ruler still clicks into place on the trimmer. There's a small hole on the top of the ruler and the bottom. I don't know where you're getting that small hole there, and a small nub on the trimmer, which enables it to click into place. On the retired trimmer, there's quite a gap at the bottom of the vertical ruler where you take the blade off and on the track. I see that there. The new trimmer works much the same, however the gap is a lot smaller, and I think it could be easily missed when you're trying to work out how to take your blades off and on the track. As for the blades, there is still the light colour for scoring and the dark colour for cutting. Instead of a sharp pointer on the side, get that on the camera, I'm not sure, that pointer there to show you where the blade will cut to, there's now an indented line on the side of the blade. Just see that there on the camera, and the same on the score line. They are a larger unit than the old blades, but they still feel comfortable to grip. Sort of a pinching motion to grip it rather than that. When you look at the blade itself, the part that does the actual cutting, you can see that the cutting blade, it's hard to show you, is larger than the old one. See if I can stick it up against the, it's really hard to show you. The blade itself, there, I think I've got it there. The blade itself is a lot larger than the old one. That's the old one there. And the replacement blades now come in a pack of 4 instead of a pack of 2. At first they seem to be more expensive, but when you realise there are 4 in a pack, you realise why the price has increased. The scoring blade, which was a tiny nub, see that little dot there? It was that tiny little nub. It's now more of a loop of metal rather than that tiny little nub. Hard to get that on the camera for you, but it's more of a loop of metal and it looks more robust and more capable. The track on the retired trimmer had this piece which could be removed and turned sideways when there was a rotary attachment available for it. Quite often people found that that piece would fall out, and when they forgot to lock the arm into place. The new trimmer has a channel and there are no removable pieces. You should try and keep that channel clear and every now and again clean it out of those tiny fibres of cardstock that get into the tracks and clog them up. Moving back to the trimmer and the extension arm, when you extend the arm on the retired trimmer, you can see that there is this gap here, and you lose your measurements from about 15.8 or 6.5 inches through to about 17.3, 6 3/4 inches. The measurements on the arm go up to 36.5 or just over 14.25 inches. When you look underneath, you see there is a foot on the arm which you can flip out and click into place to prevent the wobbles when you're using it, though most of the time I didn't bother with the foot. On the new trimmer, when you extend the arm, you can see that they have eliminated the problem with that gap, which is brilliant. Also, when you look closely, even though the white part of the ruler, even where the white part of the ruler is broken by the join, there are still, it's hard to see, there are still measurements etched into the plastic, and very few of your measurements are lost. When you compare them, you can see the arm on the new trimmer is quite a bit longer than the retired one. It goes up to 43.5 centimetres, slightly over 17 inches, and there's no necessity for a fold-out foot on the arm. It just has a couple of rubber feet. Finally, you might have noticed that there is no storage underneath this new trimmer, and that's probably what contributes to it being lighter than the old one. So how does it perform? It cuts a lot smoother than the retired one, and I'm hoping with the larger, better blade that the blade will last a lot longer. There are the numbers on the other side of the line to get used to, like I mentioned earlier, but without me having pointed it out, some would never have even noticed. When cutting, you still cover the measurements, but that doesn't bother me as that's the way it's always been and what I'm used to. What I mean by that, when you place a piece of cardstock and say you were going to cut it at 14 centimetres, you're going to cover up the 14. But that doesn't bother me, as I say, that's what I'm used to. I've never used the second set of metric measurements, which are on the old trimmer, as the bar that you butt the cardstock up to was always in the way. So let's see, that piece has fallen out, as people say it does. There we go. So if I was to cut this at 14, I'm going to cover up the 14. The number 14 is still sort of there because it's to the left of the line. And if you look, you can see there is a second set of measurements up here. But I never really used those because this bar was always in the way. And I basically even forgot they were there. But that is one difference with the number being on the left versus the right of the line, because when you put it to 14, you've covered the number. The way that the arm is made, the part that you butt the cardstock up to, move the trimmer, is when you open out the arm, the part that you butt the cardstock up to there also doubles as somewhere that you can butt the cardstock up to that way to get a straight edge. This could be either a blessing or a curse. If your cardstock is wider than the board, so I've got a piece here that's wider than the board, you either contend with the lip or you have to extend the arm. When the arm is extended, its cardstock is flat. When you close the arm, you've got that lip and it's not flat. My thinking is an extended arm will take up more of your workspace, especially with it being longer than the retired one. And the lip really shouldn't make all that much difference. Most of the time, personally, I don't cut things much wider than the width of this board. This is a standard card base and it's not wider than that board, so it's not going to make a huge amount of difference to me. The scoring blade scores a nice line, which I've noticed is narrower than the line you get with the old trimmer. When you fold the cardstock that you've scored, it's very easy to fold. I like that the arm is longer, as more often than not, if I was using the arm for scoring, it was often not long enough and I'd have to get the scoreboard out instead. I'm hoping that won't be the case so often with the new trimmer. Don't get me wrong, I like the scoreboard and it has its uses, but most of the time I find it quicker and easier to use my trimmer, so I'm pleased that the arm is longer. At the moment there are no replacement scoring blades available, and I'm wondering if this will be something that will be made available in time to come. For now, mid-October 2019, the trimmer is only available to demonstrators. To avoid back orders and potential disappointment to customers, a release date will not be announced until Stampin' Up! Are able to gauge the inventory levels after the demonstrators have pre-ordered. Once they are certain there will be enough in stock, the trimmers will go on sale for customers as well. If you'd like to order the trimmer when it becomes available, please talk to me or your local demonstrator if you are watching this video outside my local area. I hope this video has helped, and thank you for watching.